Split hairs. In this presentation, I hope to discuss how Black women today face discrimination due to their hair, which has divided Americans. First, I will go over what hair discrimination is, contextualize the lead up to such discrimination, Black hairstyles that can be seen today, and laws that are in place. Hair discrimination. It is a practice that has existed for decades as people of different cultures and backgrounds sport different hair looks. Whether it be the Chinese Q braids, Native American and Sikhs maintaining long hair, or a Muslim woman wearing head coverings, different hairstyles have permeated humanity and have brought about discourse surrounding them. But as mentioned earlier, one group that continues to face discrimination due to an intersectionality of race, sex, identity, and hair are Black women. Defining the issue. Hair discrimination can be seen in workplaces, schools, and other public places where Black girls and women experience discrimination in the form of grooming policies. This is otherwise known as texturism. It is a form of social injustice that is based on subjective ideas of what professional or clean looks like. These beliefs tend to be based around Eurocentric features that feature straight hair as a standard. And here are some examples in public spaces and private spaces that have put forward hair discriminatory policies. Some real-life examples that have only happened just recently include what happened to Andrew Johnson as he was forced to cut his dreadlocks at a match by the referee after 4 matches into the meet. In 2010, Chastity Jones was also offered a job as a customer service representative, but she was told to cut her locks because they believed that her locks would get messy, and she refused to cut her hair, losing the job opportunity. So let's understand Black hair. Black hair is biochemically identical to hair across other races. What separates them from, let's say, an Asian or white hair typically is its morphological differences. Everyone produces natural oils called sebum. This, coupled with water, moves down the shaft of each hair follicle to provide moisture and protection. However, kinky and curly pattern hair do not provide an easy route for such sebum to travel around evenly around the hair. This means that afro-textured hair loses moisture after washing, is prone to dryness and hair breakage. Many proponents of, so to speak, hair dress codes may push for women to straighten their hair. There are generally 2 options to comply with such measures, the first being chemical straightening. Chemical straightening, otherwise known as relaxers, are toxic. It damages the scalp, the hair, and causes harm to the body via cuts and burns on the scalp. The effects of such are permanent. As such, in order to have healthy hair, women have to transition their hair through trims or completely chop off their hair. The second option is heat straightening. This can be achieved through a pressing comb or flat iron. Continuous heat straightening can cause heat damage and hair breakage. A wash will also, or a humid day will also cause their hair to curl up back into its original form. All of these processes take time and cost money for the person. So, protective hairstyles. The aim of these hairstyles is not just for the aesthetics. It is also to minimize the damage caused by environmental factors and everyday wear and tear. Some styles that you can see being sported are box braids, cornrows, locks, wigs, and more. And all of these options have different variations in their styling, color, length, etc. Natural hair is not just women wearing their hair in afros. I would also like to make clear that some women do like to do procedures such as chemically straightening their hair despite the consequences, and that is their choice. In a country that champions freedom, they should not feel forced or compelled to do such hair. history. These hairstyles reflect more than a choice. They represent a long and storied cultural significance. In ancient African traditions, hair demonstrated a woman's beauty, wealth, marital status, religion, rank, and geographical origin. It was considered a representation of a person and their self. But the transatlantic slave trade changed this. Slave traders would shave off their head, which in turn was erasing their culture, past relationships, and themselves. Entering the New World under slavery, Africans did not have the time, tools, nor freedom to do their hair. Not that doing their traditional hairstyles was liked. In fact, the beauty ideal was long, straight hair. Black hair was characterized as subhuman, and hair became a racial identifier. Even laws were even passed in order to prohibit their hair from being put up in traditional hairstyles. For instance, the Tingnan Law in 1786, this law outlawed excessive hairstyles that showed off kinks and curls, and they were required to wear a tingnan or scarf to cover their hair, signifying they were the class of the slaves, regardless of being free or enslaved. Products such as the hot comb, and the first hair relaxers also were promoted as a way to tame black hair to appear clean and lovely. This push for Eurocentric beauty meant black women's hair became stereotyped as less attractive, less feminine, and also attacked their character as someone who was less intelligent, less competent, less dependable when compared to their white counterparts. And these sentiments remain in American culture and have been carried into today's world. So, what laws are currently in place that supposedly prevent such hair discrimination? There is the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or origin. Under Title V1, it prohibits discrimination in any federally funded programs such as public schools or any government official buildings. Under Title V2, it prohibits discrimination in employment. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, is a federal agency that was created to enforce civil rights laws against workplace discrimination. Under the EEOC's compliance manual in Title V2, race discrimination includes discrimination against physical characteristics such as skin color, hair, facial features, height, weight, or cultural characteristics such as one's cultural dressing, names, accent, or grooming practices. They do allow appearance standards that are neutral and applicable to all groups of people. But within these employment policies, they push for clean, neat, well-groomed hairstyles. But many fail to take into account what that looks like across different hair textures, especially for Black women. Going back to the earlier mentioned Chastity Jones, the EEOC filed a racial discrimination lawsuit against the company. However, the federal court in Alabama dismissed the lawsuit, stating that the law protected against discrimination of unchangeable traits such as skin color. As such, her hair, they deemed, was a changeable trait, and thus she was not racially discriminated against, according to them. Earlier court cases similarly set precedent for such attitudes, such as the Rogers versus American Airlines court case in 1981. Renee Rogers was a flight attendant who was told not to wear her braid in cornrows, or as they called it, an old braided hairstyle. She sued under the premise of discrimination on the basis of race, as cornrows have a cultural significance for Black women and have been historically adorned by them. However, the courts ruled that the cornrows, again, are an easily changed characteristic, and argue that she wore braids after Bo Derek, a blonde white woman who supposedly popularized cornrows in 1979 in the film 10. Similarly, in Pitts versus Wild Adventures Inc. in 2008, Patricia Pitts, after donning her hair in cornrows, was asked by her supervisor to redo her hair in a pretty hairstyle. She changed them to a two-strand twist, to which she disapproved, saying that they resembled dreadlocks. And later, the company issued a dress code preventing such hairstyles. She objected to these policies and was later written up for disciplinary violations, was not promoted, and lost her job. The courts argued that, once again, hairstyles are changeable and not evidence of racial discrimination. These type of loopholes allow employers to continue grooming policies that disparage and create unequal conditions for Black women. Some say that change is being made. However, this has only been a recent push. For instance, looking at the Crown Act, it was only introduced in March 2021 and passed in the House of Representatives in 2022, but it was blocked by the House of Senate in December 2022. The Crown Act stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. It prohibits race-based hair discrimination on natural hairstyles and textures, which include cornrows, locks, twists, braids, afros, etc. I can say, however, that there has been change and has been passed in 23 states, as shown by this map. A change has been made, but it has been a long time coming, as this has only been a recent change. The Crown Act also doesn't address individuals, companies, etc. that have underlying internalized racism and a push of white standards of appearance that perpetuate racism against Black hair. These also perpetuate hair standards that are equivalent to telling these type of standards are equivalent to telling someone that they're not allowed entry because of tattoos or inappropriate clothing. But unlike clothing or makeup, hair is an integral part of Black women and their self-identity. Closing sentiments. Despite being in the 21st century, Black women are compelled by society and policies to undertake measures against their wishes in order to fit in society that has deemed their hair as ugly or unprofessional. And the irony of it all, the United States of America is not united but divided over something so seemingly trivial as hair. But we as a society have created these beauty standards and these ideas of what clean, professional, maintained hair looks like. And as such, it is something that we as a society can change and have slowly been changing. But still, this is something that divides people up and permeates our country. And this is my works cited. Thank you.